About the time that a president serves, and President Obama is going to be doing this pretty quick. When we have this election next week on Tuesday, someone's going to be elected President of the United States.
Oh, Lord.
And Obama is going to serve out the rest of his term, and he will be in office until the third week in January when they inaugurate the new president. So they call that stage in a president's term their lame duck stage. But they do have powers to do some things, and a lot of them do different things at the last minute when they still have the power to do that. We'll see what President Obama does in his last week or two, but this is some final actions that President Adams did 4 months between Election Day and the inauguration of President-elect Jefferson. Okay? So, the Federalists, sometimes what will happen is, if a Federalist president, for example, is leaving office, he might try to pass some things out the last 3 or 4 months of his presidency to ensure that that's the way it is when the new guy takes over. Most often, you try to stay out of the way and not do that because you don't want to put the new president in any kind of a bind. But we'll see what you think of the actions by President Adams and what his philosophy was. So, during the 4 months between Election Day and the inauguration of Republican President-elect Jefferson, the Federalist majority in Congress passed a new law. And this law became known as the Judiciary Act of 1801. We've already had a Judiciary Act, haven't we? Was it 1789? And what did that do? Does anybody remember? Brady, remember what the Judiciary Act of 1789 did? It created the court system, yeah. Supreme Court and some Supreme Court justices and associate justices. It also made it 3 circuit courts and then 1 in each state. Those state courts developed our court system. Well, what happened with by virtue of the Judiciary Act of 1801, it simply increased the number of judges in the federal courts. It gave more judges. 16 more, by the way. Yep, so they increased the number of judges in the federal courts to 16 more. And who gets to pick those? The president. And since the president just happens to be a Federalist, what do you guess these 16 new judges were? Federalists. So this law became known as the Judiciary Act of 1801. It increased the number of judges in the federal courts by 16, all which would be appointed by the President of the United States, which was a Federalist, John Adams. And Adams worked late into the evening of his last day of the presidency, appointing Federalists to all different types of positions. So he was going to ensure that when the Republican candidate took over the presidency, he was going to be dealing with lots of Federalists. So he made a lot of appointments. 16, right? 16 new appointments. And because he waited until the last minutes in the last evening of his presidency, these 16 new judges that he appointed became known in history as the midnight appointments. Okay? So these 16 new judges that were appointed by Federalist President John Adams, clear up to midnight the day before he left office, became known in history as the midnight appointments. Now, some were good and some were bad. But the most significant appointment, the best choice he made for this country, was a federal judge by the name of John Marshall. He was named Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And that was a good appointment. So not all the 16 he made were good appointments. But the appointment of Judge John Marshall, who would be named as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was a good choice. But all those choices made at the 11th hour, so to speak, were known as the midnight appointments, in which he appointed 16 new federal judges to the court system in America. I'll tell you a little bit about John Marshall. We'll talk with him about a little bit more. He served on the Supreme Court for 34 years, from 1801 to 1835. He served a long time, 34 years on the Supreme Court, which means he was a good choice. He was very successful. He actually was involved in more than 500 different Supreme Court decisions in his 34 years in office. Over 500. So he was a good choice. Served 34 years as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and he was involved in more than 500 decisions. He still remains today one of the most highly regarded American Chief Justices in our country's history, John Marshall. Very, very good Supreme Court Justice. And he was appointed by John Adams at the midnight hour when he went out of office, one of the 16 midnight appointments. Okay? All right, well, we're done with the lecture. Here is the review. So get your notes out, highlighters and whatever. Here's what it's going to consist of. 15 matching questions. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 short answers. Not that many questions, but that many answers. Okay, and then we're going to have a 16-point essay that you're going to have to write on the Whiskey Rebellion. Okay, so here we go. Mr. Rasmussen, do not let me down. Who was named Chief Justice of the Supreme Court by President Adams? Chances are John Marshall. Okay? Hunter, who was sent by President Washington to negotiate a treaty with Spain? Who was sent by President Washington to negotiate the treaty with Spain? Spain. Is that correct? Hmm? Who was it? Who was it? How many people think it was Thomas Pinckney?
Say the question.
Okay. Who was sent by President Washington to negotiate a treaty with Spain?
Oh.
Okay. Who was it? Thomas Pinckney. Very good. You were getting mixed up. Okay. Delaney, what gave Great Britain's fur traders the right to carry on business on the American frontier? What gave them that right?
Jay's Treaty?
Very good. Jay's Treaty is correct. Okay, Michaela, my dear. Who was that French foreign minister that was sent to the United States, now look at me, to negotiate with Washington? What does that mean when I go like this? Maybe he didn't negotiate. Maybe he was a little demanding. Who was that fellow? He's a French diplomat that was sent to the United States to negotiate with Washington. He was a little demanding. Zenet. Yep, Edmund Zenet. Very good. Emily, my dear. Already. Who was nominated by the Federalist Party for vice president in the election of 1800? Election of 1800, the Federalist vice presidential candidate. Who was that fellow?
Thomas
You got the right last name.
Charles.
Yeah, Charles C. Pinckney. Josh, you ready over there?
Yeah.
What moved the nation's capital to land on the bank of the Potomac River? It did that. I assume you'll know this. I'd have to bill you if you don't get this.
Something real.
Oh, the Assumption Bill. All right. JC, and it's not, oh dear, or my God, or I don't know. Here's the question. Who ran for vice president for the Republican Party in the election of 1796. And I'll give you a hint, he also ran for vice president in 1800 too.
For which party?
Republicans. He's got a catchy last name.
Aaron Burr.
Aaron Burr. All right. Casey, I'll get this confidence up, girl. Pop this out right away. Who is the nation's first postmaster general? What? Okay. Who was the nation's first postmaster general? Now you'll be good at this. Come on, you're good. You're a lot better than you think you are. Right, like the Wizard of Oz too. Don't tell her now. Gotta get her confidence up. Postmaster General. I just want you to know we got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, about 28 minutes left. So take your time. Who is the first Postmaster General? Come on, you're good at this class. Wait. I mean, I'm getting old, but I'm going to wait for you. You must have your notes here, don't you? Wait. Wait's what broke down the bridge in Rome. Who was the first Postmaster General? Look at all these right here. Find him. You know, the only one you don't have in there. My God, it's true. The only one. Anybody know? Did I not tell anybody?
I don't think I have it. Yeah.
You have it? Does anybody have it?
I don't know. She told us.
They've never told you. No, I really feel bad. Hey, for your information, it was Samuel Osgood.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let me write that down. It won't make you worry about it on the test, but I am concerned that I didn't say that. Samuel
You did not,
Osgood.
because I had him.
I'll just note that. Did you have him? Why didn't you say that? Why didn't you answer? You wrote a paper on him, right?
Yeah?
Gotta be crossing that one off. I don't think I will cross it off there. Samuel Osgood was the nation's first Postmaster General. What was the postmaster do at the post office? Runs the post office. This guy ran all the post offices. I didn't tell you that though, I'm pretty sure. All right, Casey, I'm so sorry, my dear, so I'm going to give you another chance to redeem yourself. Who is the nation's first Attorney General?
Edmund Randolph.
Yeah, that a girl, Edmund Randolph. Cherith, who is the nation's first Secretary of War? Got a fort named after him with a lot of money in it. What? Henry Knox. Nation's first Secretary of War. Who is the nation's first Secretary of State, Taylor? Thomas Jefferson. And who is the nation's first Secretary of the Treasury, Maddie? Give you $10 if you get it right.
Alexander.
Yeah. Okay. I'm all shook up now with that fact I didn't tell you that, because I feel bad. But you hung in there good. Dane, who is the revolutionist who overthrew the French government and agreed to abandon the Treaty of 1778 with the United States? Who did that? Napoleon. Napoleon is right. Asia, who is the nation's first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court?
John Marshall.
No, he was not. He was appointed by Adams. Booth Washington. He negotiated a hell of a treaty, we got nothing for him, except for a promise not to go to war with us. Negotiated a treaty that was not favorable to the United States. Well, we didn't want to go to war, so we gave him the right to trap furs in the frontier, gave him the right to John Jay. That was it. And what established the court system in this United States of America? Pistol Pete? A piece of legislation. Now, what piece of legislation established the court system in America? And it happened in 1789, not 1801. The one in 1801 led to the massive appointment of 16 new justices, judges. What was the name of that law that started the court system in America? I won't judge you if you get it wrong. I might act on it. I mean, I know you're late, but I didn't leave your mind out there, did it? Maybe? Not very judicious at this answer. Of what? Judiciary Act of 1789. Those are your matching questions, kids, and we will have Samuel Osgood in there. So make sure you note Samuel Osgood was the first postmaster general. What? All right, here we go. Okay, well, I just want you to briefly explain the nation's Congress after the election of President Washington. Don't overthink this. It's easy. What was the nation's Congress after the election of Washington? You don't have to call me God, just answer the question.
Is it where they established the Supreme Court?
No, I just want to know what the Congress looked like after Washington was elected.
I don't know.
Sure you do. You're just thinking too much. Let me see here.
Uh, 26 senators, 2 per state, and then 59 representatives.
26 senators and 59 representatives. That's what Congress looked like after the election of President Washington. 26 senators, 1 from each state, and 59 representatives. 2 from each state and 59 representatives. Okay. Dalton, give me one basic problem that President Washington and the Congress had in organizing a new federal government.
There were not a lot of federal laws, and there were regional laws.
Okay, there was no federal laws, right? Macklin, give me another one.
They had a pretty weak military.
And a very weak military, that's exactly right. How about another one, Siobhan?
No court systems.
No court systems? How about another one, Brady?
No one.
No money? Okay, Caitlin, how about another one? That tremendous war debt? Okay, Ivan, how about another one?
No method of collecting taxes.
No method of collecting taxes, and if they did have taxes, they had what? Ms. Jones and Sage, what didn't they have? Even though if they collected taxes, they didn't have what?
Banks.
Well, not banks. A federal,
Oh, like currency thing?
starts with a T, federal treasury. Okay, any more? Tristan, you got one?
No foreign policy.
No foreign policy? You're gonna need to know 5.
No police.
No law enforcement officers. You're gonna need to know 5 of those on your test. 5 basic problems. So make sure you know at least 5, okay? Okay, Lauren, give me one executive department that was created by Congress to help President Washington with his work as President of the United States. Department of State. Michaela, give me another one.
Wait, what was the question?
The question was, give me one of the executive departments that was created by Congress to help President Washington with his work as President of the United States. And Lauren said the Department of State.
Department of Treasury.
Department of Treasury. What's the last one, Ivan?
Department of War.
Right, you need to know all 3. Departments that were created by Congress to help Washington as President of the United States. Okay, Paris, give me one advantage of the Bank of the United States. Okay, we got time. We're on Casey Standard Time here.
Okay, so Hamilton saw that each branch will provide a safe place for taxes to be collected.
Okay, how about another advantage, Dane, of the Bank of the United States?
They could exchange money with checks, it's all the same.
What's that?
They could exchange money with checks, it's all the same.
Yeah, they wouldn't have to, what, transport gold and silver, right. Any other advantages of the bank, Howard Hunter?
By the assembling form of currency.
Provide a sound uniform currency. Case got another one? Is there any more? Anybody got one?
Good person.
Harris said, go ahead.
That each branch will provide a safe place to deposit.
Same place to put the money we collect from taxes. Any others? Okay, you're gonna need to know 2 advantages of the Bank of the United States. Okay, Maddie, give me one thing the United States gained as a result of President Washington sending Thomas Pinckney to Spain to negotiate that treaty in 1795. What's one thing we gained? And what do we have to give up? We simply have to give up that we would not go to war with Spain, right? Okay, so what do we get? What's one thing we got?
Allow for British to shop in the frontier.
I don't think so. What we got, that one you got Jay's, you're on Jay's tree.
Yeah.
That'd be later in your notes. This would be later. Spain would be later in your notes, yeah.
This is French.
Okay, we wanted to have better relations with Spain. Can you find that in there? Gaining favor with Spain. Somebody give me one while she's looking. How about, let's see, who haven't picked on too much, Sage?
A favorable borderline in Florida.
Between Florida and
Florida.
Georgia. Okay, that boundary between Florida and Georgia, because Florida was owned by Spain, was never really decided. And we finally established a border between our colony, or our state now, of Georgia, and Florida, which was actually owned by the Spanish, and that border was favorable to us. There's one. If I any, give me
Yeah.
another.
Spain would stop the Indian attacks on Georgia and the West Georgia.
That's right. Spain would stop Indian attacks from Indians from their area on Georgia and the western lands. What was the third one, Caitlin? Third thing we gave.
Have the right to navigate the Mississippi if they're free.
Okay, by being able to go into what port city? North. We were able